Thank you so much for sticking with us as we delve a little deeper into our favorite mock drafts just 3 days before all the speculation will finally come to an end. So as we live in the land of hypotheticals for a few more days, Chris Trapasso from CBS Sports, he is one of the most accurate mock drafters in the business. He updated his mock draft with a few mock trades, including the Raiders and Browns making a swap, meaning in this mock, the Broncos and Browns will not be trade partners. Denver will pick at 15, and with the big three gone yet again, Denver selects cornerback CJ Henderson from Florida. Do you like the idea of the Broncos taking a corner with their 15th overall pick?
I would say at 15, I like the idea of corner, but I especially don't like CJ Henderson for the Broncos. And I think we've talked a ton about his tackling issues in college, and I think that's what usually headlines this thing. There's a multitude of reasons. Look, size, speed, my goodness, the guy is an uber athlete. But the Broncos have moved away from just drafting the uber athletes, and they've gone to drafting guys that want to. And sometimes with C.J. Henderson, there's a little bit of a concern there. Heck, I take Xavier McKinney, the very next pick that goes off the board. I'd rather have him instead of C.J. Henderson. And there's other guys even later in the draft. But, man, I tell you what, this is like one of the one guys that I'm going into this draft that I hope the Broncos don't come away with.
There's one corner worth 15. He's going to be gone at 3, by the way. That's Jeff Okudah. And Henderson, athletically, as Ryan points out, he tests on the same level as Okudah, even better in some certain tests, but he's not that type of player in terms of ball skills, in terms of tackling, in terms of willingness to get your hands dirty. As a corner, sometimes you have to do that. Even in a zone dog defense like Vic Fangio, you still have to go up and be willing to attack that run. You just don't see it from Henderson. I give you second-round guys. I can give you third-round guys that could start from day one for the Denver Broncos, and Henderson would be just an odd fit in my eyes.
Well, the biggest point about this is what Cecil just said, that you could get somebody to start day one for the Broncos, is because I would see the pick happening as much as Ryan would hate it and quit his job and his family would starve because he doesn't like the pick of C.J. Henderson. But if you think about it, this is a huge need for this team. I mean, outside of A.J. Boye, you have a question mark next to every other player that's going to play the position. But Ryan did make a good point. I mean, he is somewhat of a smart individual. Safety's a need as well. I mean, Kareem Jackson is not going to go back there, even though he had a brilliant year this past season, forever. You have a star in Justin Simmons, but everybody else, I think, and you would almost include A.J. Boye, is not a slam dunk in the secondary. Every position except Justin Simmons. But I do get the need. You just always get scared when you know a team, and we all know it if the pick happens, is drafting for need and not best player available or talent or fit instead of it's just need. If you want to know kind of how teams are thinking about the cornerback class, I've had more than one general manager tell me they think this is a deep corner class. But when they say deep, they mean they can get somebody in multiple rounds. That's kind of how Vic Fangio calls a deep class. It's not like there's 4 first-round receivers and then there's nothing for a couple of rounds and it's scarce. They believe around the league that there are corners to find in the first, second, third, fourth round that can help your club.
Trapasso has Jedrick Wills, a guy that many are saying is the best offensive tackle in this draft class, going to the Dolphins at 18. So do you think the Broncos would ever take a corner over an offensive tackle, specifically Wills?
Well, never say never in the NFL draft.
Say never.
It is interesting, though, because Wills, from what I've heard at the Combine, did impress on a whiteboard. And that's something that people will say, okay, well, how does he fit? Again, back to that F word we talk about, fit in the National Football League. And, Wills to me is that top tackle. But as Ryan's pointed out on this very show before, Broncos may like what they have in place already more than fans like. Certainly you always hear from fans on Twitter, Broncos need an offensive tackle. That's fine. I would agree with you. But this team might like Garrett Bowles more than you. They might like Juwan James more than you and might be set to move forward with those two rather than take a tackle.
Now, it wasn't the 15th pick, but take a look at what Philly did a year ago. They even traded above the Texans to go get Andre Dillard, and they knew he was going to go sit a year behind Jason Peters. So if it's somebody you really do like and you don't care that they got a red shirt or sit, especially at the tackle spot, it's a move to make. The one thing that still stands out to me is John Elway talking to all of us at the Combine going, we'll address Garrett Bowles' 5th-year option after the draft. If that doesn't tell me exactly where they may think this draft may fall at the tackle spot and how they think where they slate Garrett Bowles moving forward, I think that tells you a couple of things about John Elway's thinking.
All right, really quick before we go, I want to get your final predictions. What do you believe the Broncos will actually do this Thursday? Ryan, let's start with you.
They're going to come up with a wide receiver, and it'll be one of the top three guys. I'd like to see either Ruggs or CeeDee Lamb, but at this point, I think that they're going to take one of the top three guys, probably leaning Ruggs.
I'd lean that they'd move back in this draft for another wide receiver in the first round, but pick up other picks that you can use to maneuver probably into the end of the first round. Wouldn't shock me if the Broncos ended up with 2 first-round picks in this draft.
Yeah, Cecil kind of stole what I've been hearing, is that they're looking to move back and then possibly back in. So you have 2 towards the end. And I think the way that they have manipulated the draft last year makes you think very positively that that would maybe come away with a couple of really solid players. But if you stayed at 15, I mean, my favorite thing about this entire show is if Javon Kinlaw was there at 15. So that would be my play, because that would be, I think, a slam dunk for the Broncos, because I think that would be the start of the chances of 3 really good drafts for John Elway in a row.